Blue zone exercises versus modern workouts. Which is better for health and longevity? That's something I'm going to talk about today, so stick around. Hi, my name is Sachiaki Takamiya. I am the author of the Ikigai Diet and Ikigai Bio-Hacking. All right, so this is the sixth video of my series, Live 220 Secrets of the Modern Day Japanese Blue Zones. Right, so today I'd like to discuss the difference between so-called blue zone exercises like moving naturally and modern workouts. Okay, so in blue zones, people don't work out. Yeah, centenarians don't work out. They move naturally instead, such as doing gardening and things around the house and so on. Yeah. So, which is better? Yeah, moving naturally or doing modern workouts such as jogging or doing kind of a strength training or doing HIIT and so on, right? Now, you know that I'm in favor of natural exercises, yeah, because I made a video called Don't Work Out for Longevity if you want to increase your Ikigai, or I said like lions and tigers don't lift weights in my other video called Exercise Method Shohei Ohtani versus Ichiro. Yeah, so the answer is clear from that. However, I'm beginning to think differently now. Yeah. So please watch the video until the end because you may be surprised to find what I will have eventually discovered. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'm beginning to think differently because one, sports is one of the secrets to Shiga's longevity. Shiga Prefecture became the longest living prefecture in Japan in the latest, national ranking for average life expectancy. Yeah. And sport is one of the secrets, right? So many Japanese prefectures are located in the countryside. And in many of those places, senior citizens lead so-called Satoyama lifestyle, kind of a traditional Japanese lifestyle that's involved a lot of moving naturally. They work in their garden and so on. Yeah. However, prefectures who do more sports seem to live longer. So that is making me wonder about blue zone exercises. Right. And the other thing is, many elderlies in the countryside have a bent back. Now, this is generally true for most like older people, whether you live in the countryside or the urban area. But I see more elderlies with a bent back in the countryside. And I think it is to do with the kind of posture we are often in. Like when you do a gardening, yeah, you often squat and you kind of bend back a lot. So I think that is making this right. So that make me think that not all blue zones activities are healthy. Sometimes it cause problems. Yeah, right. Okay. So what are blue zone exercises anyway? Yeah, when you talk about moving naturally, what kind of activities, what kind of movement are they? Yeah. So let's break them down. Okay. So from this Netflix program called Live to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones. So one thing is they talk about Sardinia, Italy. Yeah, it's a hilly place. In fact, it is located. Most places are located above, 700 meters above sea level. It's a highland, plus it's very steep. So, and they walk a lot, and they do a lot of walking up and downs. Yeah, and that was one of the secret. And many of them are shepherds, so they also walk a lot up and down the hill. Yeah, and they walk up to 5 miles a day, which is like 8 kilometers. That's quite a lot. Yeah. And in Loma Linda, California, the Seventh-day Adventist. Yeah, this is a kind of unique case. Yeah, in the Blue Zone, they do a lot of sports. I mean, they do a lot of walking too, but they encourage, sporting activities a lot in this community. So that was interesting because when you think of, Blue Zone's exercises, you don't think about sports, but one region out of five regions actually spend a lot of time doing sports. Yeah, right. And then in Okinawa, they do gardening. In fact, gardening was common throughout the five regions. Like in almost everywhere, they did some kind of gardening. Yeah, right. Okay. So, what are Blue Zone's exercises? Let's break them down. One is walking, yeah, and then doing some sport and gardening, yeah, and also in Okinawa, a lot of them get up and down on the tatami floor, yeah, um, and then also using hands, like Sardinia, Italy, many people like make bread, or they spend long hours in the kitchen making things. So they use their hands all day long doing something, yeah, moving every 20 minutes. So the what they do is significant, but how often they do, yeah, they're constantly moving. So that was a critical factor of the blue zones, right? Okay, so what are the modern day Japanese blue zone exercises? Yeah, so we do a lot of gardening too. And also, we do a lot of work in the rice field. That is more unique to the main island or the main land of Japan, not so much in Okinawa. There are some rice fields in Okinawa too, but it is more common in the outside of Okinawa. Yeah. And then working in a rice field is quite different from working in a vegetable field because it's muddy. Yeah. You are in a muddy area. And if you walk, it require more leg strength. And also it require more balance work. Yeah. Because you don't want to fall down in the muddy field. I mean, you don't want to fall down in the vegetable garden too, but especially in the rice field. Yeah. So you kind of walk more carefully and you do pay more attention to like every step. Yeah. And you kind of require more strength for that. So it's definitely is a good leg strength training and the balance training too. And cut trees sometimes, and you chop firewood in the wintertime because many of the Shizenha people have wood burning stove these days, right? And then we walk up and down the mountains. And now, this is not necessarily a daily activity like the people in Sardinia, Italy, but in Nagano, yeah, it is quite common because it's a mountainous region. And most areas in Nagano prefectures are located 600 meters above sea level. And the village I used to live when I was in junior high school, was like that. So in fact, I commuted to the school, yeah, walking 5 miles round trip a day, and in about like 200 meters walking up and down. Yeah, so like every day, like walking up and down the hill was everyday activity. But even today, I think many people like mountain hiking. Some people go mountain hiking for like a religious reasons, like sort of Shinto, like rituals, right? So many Japanese people, go mountain hiking at least several times a year. And a lot of Shizenka people love, mountain hiking. So they probably go mountain hiking once a month and so on. And it is very popular in Shiga too, because there are a lot of low mountains to climb in Shiga. Right. Okay. So, what does science say about exercises for longevity? What kind of exercises are considered to be optimal? Yeah. Um, So one is disease prevention and aging prevention. And one is injury prevention. Because often when we think of longevity, we try to, think about lifestyle diseases such as diabetes and cancer and so on. But injury prevention is as critical because many causes of death among senior citizens is breaking their hip bone. Yeah. And then once they break the hip bone, then they are bedridden, and then they won't be able to move, and that will deteriorate their many of the function and eventually become sick too, right? So injury prevention is as critical. And David Sinclair, the author of Lifespan, he is one of the most well-known longevity expert. Yeah, he says for disease prevention and aging prevention, um, low intensity aerobic exercise and high intensity aerobic exercises are good. And for injury prevention, strength training is good. Yeah. And Dr. Peter Attia is another well-known longevity expert. He's a physician too, and he has 4 pillars of exercises. Yeah. And one, stability training, and two, strength training, and then three, low intensity cardio, which he called zone 2, and high intensity cardio, which he called zone 5. Right. Okay. So in modern workouts, you can aim to do them. Yeah. Like so today, I'm doing low intensity cardio, or, today I'm doing high intensity cardio. I'm doing strength training, or I'm stretching. Yeah. Stretching is one thing that was missing, but it is also important for longevity too. And balance and stability and so on. Yeah. Okay, so how about blue zone exercises? Yeah. So walking, sports, gardening, getting up and down on the tatami floor, using hands, moving every 20 minutes. Yeah. What scientifically proven optimal exercises for longevity do they cover? Yeah. Now, how about walking? Yeah. So walking is a low intensity cardio. It's somewhere between zone 1 to zone 3, depending on, how steep your road is. If you're walking up the hill, then sometime it becomes zone 3, but usually maybe zone 2. And if it's flat, maybe zone 1. And depending on your speed too. If it's a brisk walking, and it probably becomes zone 2 and so on. Yeah. And also, it becomes strength training for leg muscles and bones, especially if you do a brisk walking or if you walk up the hill. Yeah. And gardening. Okay. Now, what is gardening? So when you garden, often you squat. Yeah, you squat and do the weeding and stuff, right? So that itself becomes a low intensity cardio. If you continue like doing the weeding in a kind of squat position for like certain period, like for 30 minutes and so on, then it does become a low intensity cardio. I would probably, yeah, it's possible that you are in zone 2. It could be somewhere between zone 1 and zone 2, depending on your metabolism, but also depending on how hard you work and so on. Yeah. And it can be strength training for leg muscles and bones if squat and get up and walk and then squat again and get up and so on. Yeah. And it can be stability training for the same reason you are squatting and getting up and so on. And as I told you, if you work in the right field, it becomes even more. Yeah. And how about getting up and down on the tatami floor? Yeah. So again, it's a squatting. You are basically squatting a lot. You kind of sit down and then you get up and sit down, get up. You do that movement a lot. Yeah. So that's a strength training for leg muscles and bones, and also stability training. And also toe training, because what happens in Japan is usually you are on your barefoot. most of the time, maybe between spring to autumn, you are barefoot. So that itself is good for your toes because your toes are open. Yeah. And, we don't wear shoes inside the house. In fact, I think wearing shoes inside the house is the most ridiculous things the human being has invented. I mean, I understand wearing shoes outside, yeah, because it's dangerous. But what is the point of wearing shoes inside the house? Yeah. So I encourage you to stop wearing shoes inside the house. You don't need to be living in a tatami floor. You can just live in a regular Western style floor, but you can live like Japanese, you just stop wearing shoes and stay barefoot as long as possible. But in the winter time, it's too cold, so you can wear socks. But you can always find toe socks these days. Yeah, and then um, if it's possible for some rooms you just use cushions instead of chairs, then you can practice this getting up and down on the floor lifestyle. Yeah. Um, yeah. So therefore, it becomes a toe training too. And using hands, yeah. Again, it depends on what you do with your hands. If you do some, like, cutting trees or, chopping firewood and so on, and it becomes strength training for upper body and muscles and bones. Yeah. And if you're like in the kitchen making bread and, doing cooking, then it's like a finger and grip strength training. Yeah. And also, while you're doing it, you're standing. Most of the time you're standing while you're cooking. And it's just like you're using a standing desk. Recently some people use standing desk, right? But it's the same sort of effect, right? And so that means when we look at all those blue zone exercises, they cover mostly, but not everything, right? And one thing is clear that you don't stretch in natural movement. Yeah. I mean, we usually do stretching when we do sport. Before doing sports or after doing sports, we stretch. Yeah. But when you work in your garden, you don't really stretch. You don't think about stretching for some reason. Yeah. So that's one thing is missing from like a natural movement. Yeah. Therefore, we need to add stretching even though you practice blue zones exercises. Right. So depending on activities, it also you don't do all of them. I mean, some people do all of them, but some people do only work in the garden, or some people do only walking and so on. So it kind of changes depending on what you do. Yeah. And sometimes your exercise routine may be imbalanced. Yeah. The other thing is it is not measurable. Well, you don't usually measure. When you work in your garden, you don't think about, how many hours you work and so on. You just work until it is necessary. Yeah, until you finish your job, right? And so but in the modern workout, you usually, you jog for 30 minutes or you go to the gym for like 2 hours and you kind of measure the amount and you roughly understand how much work you put into. Yeah. But with natural movement, sometimes you are doing not enough exercise, or sometimes you're doing too much exercise, or sometimes you're doing too much of one type of movement and not enough other type of movement. Right. Yeah. And then, but in modern workouts, you can measure your exercises and therefore you can cover all areas too. Yeah. As I said before, you aim to cover all those areas. I mean, of course, when you do modern workouts, I mean, some people don't do all of them. Some people do only the strength training, or others only go jogging and so on. So not many people does everything. But if you aim to do them, you can do them all. Yeah. And but in blue zone exercises, the purpose is not to train your body. Therefore, you don't think about, or I'm doing a low intensity, cardio or strength training and so on. Yeah, the purpose is to get your job done. Yeah. So in that sense, blue zone exercises are productive. Yeah. You move to produce something. In the case of gardening, definitely you're producing something. Now, actually, I sometimes feel guilty about going jogging in the morning because in my neighborhood, there are many farmers, right? So usually in the morning, many people working in the field. Yeah, I'm one of the few people who are not working. So I feel very guilty because they might think, what is he doing? He's not doing anything. He's not producing anything. Yeah. But everybody else, they're exercising and being productive at the same time. I mean, I'm the only one who is just wasting my time. Yeah. But that's what the farmer's mentality is. I mean, what a waste of time to go to the gym, spending 2 hours not producing anything, right? Because most work, whether it is production of food or sometimes maintaining your house or fixing your fence, yeah, has some extra purpose to do. Yeah. And then if we think about our lifestyle throughout the century, throughout our history, whether it was a hunter-gatherer's age to agricultural age, we have moved for survival. Yeah, we have moved to obtain food or maybe create heat, like, chopping firewood to make fire uh, to survive. Yeah, everything is done for the survival. And that is human nature. Yeah. So that is the ancestral lifestyle. So the blue zone exercises are closer to ancestral lifestyle. And then in the field of longevity, we often talk about how our metabolism and things were built during the hunter-gatherer time. And that is why some people need to practice fasting because that time people didn't have food every day. They were hungry for a few days and they went hunting and then they became successful and then they have a feast. They have a feast. So they have a feast, fast, feast, fast. That alternation was their rhythm, and our body in the present age hasn't changed since that time. Yeah. So from that point of view, maybe leading a blue zone lifestyle is closer to our ancestral lifestyle. Therefore, maybe for some other reason than just a physical exercise, maybe it is affecting us positively, such as circadian rhythm. Yeah, because if you practice blue zone's lifestyle, you get up early and then you go to bed early too. But when you do modern workouts, depending on how you work out or when you work out, you don't always, live according to the circadian rhythm. And in Blue Zone's workout, you work outdoor, right? So let's say outside of actual kind of exercise benefit or physical benefit, being in nature has tremendous benefit. You are under the sun, so you get a lot of vitamin D from your sunlight. And then when you touch the soil, you are in touch with, soil microbiome. And their view saying soil microbiome and gut microbiome are connected, and therefore it has a positive impact on your health and so on. Yeah. Now, so let's look at this aspect of planetary biohacking, right? So in Ikigai Biohacking, there are four pillars. One is physical biohacking, and then mental biohacking, spiritual biohacking, and planetary biohacking. Because you need to think about planetary health as well as personal health. Yeah, because if the planet is destroyed, there's no point of, staying healthy and living longer. Yeah. Um, so that means you need to think about sustainability of exercises too. So for the modern workouts, many people drive to the gym. And the gym is like fully air conditioned and using a lot of energy to move all those machines and so on. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you cycle to the gym, it's probably better. I mean, some people do. Some people cycle to the gym, but many people don't. And I know why. Because I used to go to the gym and I didn't cycle to the gym and I didn't want to cycle to the gym. Because for me at that time, working out was different from regular life. Yeah, the gym was a place to work out. So I didn't want to work out beforehand. Yeah. And when you get to the gym, you do the workout, and after that, you take a shower, you may have a sauna, and then you get changed. And then especially on the way back, you didn't want to cycle back because you get sweaty again, right? It wasn't convenient to cycle. It was, I mean, at that time I lived in Tokyo, so I didn't use a car. I used a train, but um, that's the mentality. And some people say the cycling is not optimal. Yeah. So in terms of measuring your, like a zone two type of thing, your cardio exercise, using aero bike or running machine is more accurate. Yeah. And also, some people say the air is polluted. It's not healthy to cycle, with so many cars around and so on. Right. Um, okay, so when you started thinking about that, it become little strange because optimization doesn't equal sustainability, and sustainability doesn't equal optimization. Yeah, there's a trade-off. Yeah, right. So you need to think about many aspects when we compare blue zone exercises and modern workouts. Right. Okay. But the final conclusions, the difference between the two so blue zone exercises are closer to ancestral lifestyle, productive and sustainable, and modern workouts, scientific, optimal, and measurable. Right. Okay. So which is better? Well, it's really depends on your perception and your preferences, really. Yeah. But the good news is you can combine the two. You don't have to choose between the two. Yeah. So I encourage you to do, the move naturally as much as possible in your daily life. Yeah. You don't need to, go back to Blue Zone's lifestyle 100%, but you can move naturally as much as possible. Yeah. For example, walk whenever you can, uh, to go to store and any places within the walking distance, please walk. That's the most natural and the basic thing that humans do. Yeah. And that is an activity you want to continue doing until you are 100 years old. Some other activities, such as playing basketball or lifting heavy weights, you probably won't need to do them. Yeah, and that's okay. But walking is something you'll continue. Therefore, you want to keep doing it. Yeah. And not walking on a flat road, find stairs to walk up and down. Yeah. I love actually walking up the stairs. So recently, whenever I see a stair, I get very excited. Wow, stairs, I can kind of practice my walking and so on. Yeah. Um, and cycle to the near places. Yeah. So I usually drive if it's very far, but if it's close enough, I try to cycle as much as possible. When I go grocery shopping, I always cycle to get there. And it's like doing things for survival, getting food. The moving for getting your food is like a survival act. So I love it. And then definitely gardening. Yeah, I recommend gardening to everyone because it is, very good for your gut microbiome, since you can get in touch with your soil microbiome and you can get vitamin D from the sun and so on. And it's great exercise, but also it is sustainable. Yeah. So local, organic, small-scale horticultural farming create biodiversity, and that is the key for the sustainability and preventing climate change and so on. So more people practice this kind of farming. Yeah, it's critical. And then I think if many people move to the countryside, and you don't need to become a farmer, but just have a little garden and lead this kind of lifestyle. Yeah, it will change many things. It change the atmosphere and our culture and way of thinking of things. Yeah. Okay. And then on top of that, you add some exercises that natural movement doesn't cover. Yeah. Such as stretching. Yeah. As I said before, we don't usually stretch before working in our garden. So make sure to do stretching afterwards, especially stretching your back. Yeah. This is critical to protect your back being bent. Yeah. So when you do gardening, it is imperative to do this a lot more than when you don't do gardening. Yeah. And Nordic walking also helps. It's a great low intensity cardio exercise, but you can also walk. You can also walk with this straight back. Yeah. Or hanging is also good. You can stretch your spine too. In fact, this I was taught this by Dr. Hirai, who is an acupuncturist who comes to our house once a month. I mean, once every 2 months, and he is a specialist in kind of posture correction and so on. And he is a master of ancient Japanese martial art, which is kind of based on the Japanese natural health, right? And then, so I included Japanese natural health in the modern day Japanese blue zones. Yeah. Because this element changes so many things in our blue zone lifestyle. Yeah. By having the Japanese natural health or not makes a lot of difference. And many Shizenka people these days practice things based on Japanese natural health. So when you actually live on a tatami floor and getting up and down the tatami floor, it is kind of a part of the Japanese natural health to that lifestyle. And that old man in Okinawa who could, sort of lift his body with his legs crossed. Yeah, I think that's also based on Japanese natural health too. Yeah. So that means you want to do a lot of like rolling, you kind of roll your neck and then or your shoulder, and then do some toe exercise and open your toes by like living, barefoot, yeah, on floor itself is good for your toes, but you need to deliberately work on your toes too. And then when you work in your garden, pay attention to your posture. Yeah. So what do you think of this posture? So now I have more weight on the left leg. Yeah. And then the back is kind of bent. So this is not a good posture, but this is a common posture when we do weeding. Yeah. So if you change to sit like this is like an Asian squat position. So you have an equal weight and your spine is more straight. Yeah. It is better to work in this position. And then, so before that, when I do the weeding of this part, I just extended my arms without moving. And then here it's two, here it's two. So my posture was always kind of changing a little bit. But instead of doing that, I can stand up and walk one step and then squat again and do the weeding here. Then stand up and then move a bit and then squat again and do the weeding. So in this way, I get to do a lot of squats. Yeah. Plus my posture stays still. So this is much better. Therefore, you want to pay attention to your posture when you work. Okay. So the bottom line is you want to cover these longevity workouts as much as possible, whether you do blue zone exercises or modern workouts. Yeah, try to cover low intensity cardio, high intensity cardio, strength training both for muscles and bones, stretching and joint rolling, and balance and stability. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching. Again, my name is Sachiaki Takamiya. I am the author of the Ikigai Diet and Ikigai Bio-Hacking. If you like this video, please give me your thumb up and subscribe to my channel. And please leave your comment. Yeah, which do you prefer? Blue zone exercises or modern workouts? Thank you. Well, I'll see you in the next video. Live with your Ikigai!